Good evening and welcome to GC Talks, a series of webinars sponsored by the Goshen College Alumni Council, planned for the 2021 school year, featuring Goshen College alumni and friends. I am Todd Yoder, Vice President for Institutional Advancement here at Goshen College, and I will be hosting tonight's webinar, Deep Dive, Telling the GC Marine Biology Story. Marine biology in the heartland. You may be asking, why are we talking about marine science in northern Indiana? Well, there is a long and storied history that connects this college in Goshen, Indiana, with Layton, Florida, and the Florida Keys. And we will explore some of that tonight. The marine biology program has been a part of the Goshen College Biology Department since 1966. When Doctors Jonathan Roth and Frank Bishop accompanied a small group of students to Pigeon Key during spring vacation. In 1985, GC built its own field station, the J.N. Roth Marine Biology Station and the C.F. Bishop Laboratory, where they have been providing research and educational opportunities for the last 35 years. In this talk today, we will explore over half a century of marine science at Goshen College and hear what the future holds in expanded programs and initiatives. Halfway down the Florida Keys rests the quiet, unassuming community of Layton. Here on Long Key, a unique relationship has formed between Goshen College and the town. This is the story of how Goshen College developed a marine biology program and how that program ended up finding a permanent home in Layton, Florida. Follow along the journey of the 55-year program and see how this town and this school grew up together in the beauty of the Florida Keys. Following the video presentation of Deep Dive, my colleagues Ryan Sensenig and Kyle Hufford will speak about the making of Deep Dive and more about programming, the aspirations, and the uniqueness of marine biology at Goshen College. For our audience, there will be a Q&A period at the end of the presentations. Please note that for the Zoom audience participants, you can enter your questions at any time during this webinar under the Q&A tab. Welcome to Deep Dive.
There's a long history and a long story of how a small school in the Midwest ended up owning and managing their own marine biology station in the Florida Keys.
It's a one-of-a-kind opportunity for our college students, especially considering the context that we come from, cold, snowy Goshen.
We have a long 50-year history of a marine biology program at Goshen College, and this is a treasure. We have a real gem and a real opportunity here that we would be foolish to let go of for sure.
I'm proud of the program, whatever little part I had to play in it.
The city and the college grew up together, and I don't know that there's anybody in this town that lived here when the college wasn't here.
To have a research center here is just phenomenal.
It's not just the relationships that started the program, it's the relationships that keep the program going.
Halfway down the Florida Keys sits Long Key. This quiet spot in between the more touristy Isla Mirada and Marathon is home to the close-knit town of Layton. Founder Del Layton, a Miami grocer, envisioned this undeveloped land as an intentional community. Del expertly designed this sanctuary to provide an escape from the commercial and tourist settlements more common to the Florida Keys.
The city was made of land purchased by Del Layton back in, I guess it was the late 40s. And as time went on, Del did form the city in about 1963.
It was about 1940 when Mary and Del Layton decided to sell their grocery store business in Miami off of 7th Avenue and come to the Keys and just venture out. You know, they had been coming down every few weekends to fish. And it was my grandfather's passion, and my grandmother being the person she was, you know, she wanted his dream to come true.
They dug the canals and made the lots up. He was careful who he sold to. You had to be interviewed by him pretty much before he'd sell you a lot. And they were like $10 down, $10 a month that was paid off. And he was looking more for the blue collar type of a person.
There was nothing here. They brought in the fill and everything. There were no canals, no roads across the highway. This whole area where we are sitting is all fill that was brought in. Nothing was here, and so he was involved in all of it.
He donated the land for the firehouse and the city hall, and he got volunteers to help build it. He was the fire chief, in fact, for quite a while. He was also our local police officer. He even took one of his cars and parked it out on the street. There's no engine in it, but he painted it black and white. And so it was up and down the highway. People would see a police car, and so there'd be some presence of a police department at all times. And we still carry that through today. You'll see the sheriff's cars parked out there. We're located 15 miles from any kind of population center. We're located right in the middle of a state park, which he had a lot to do with having the state take it over as a state park.
The city's always been environmentally conscious, okay? We have a very large conservation area over here. We worked real hard to see that that really wasn't developed. And that was my dad and a few partners, and one of our city attorneys helped get our city charter.
We have 150 homes here. We have about, right now, we're about built out. We have about 11 vacant lots left to be built on. But of those 11 lots, maybe 4 or 5 of them are joining an existing home, and it'll probably never be built on. The people like the bigger yard. So we're not looking for any growth.
The challenge is keeping that small town family type community whenever we're having less and less year-round or all the, full-time residents, I guess would be the way of saying it. Even though we have those few new families, and younger families even, that are coming in, but oftentimes those are the ones that can only stay for so long, and then they move on because of economics.
Because of our location here in Long Key, we're 15 miles from any kind of development. It's not a drawing card for people to come to develop. We're surrounded by a state park, so that's never going to be developed. And part of his thing, we wanted to be a complete community. If he could have had an elementary school, grade school, high school, and the college, would have been exactly what he was looking for.
While Layton was developing into a town, a small college in Goshen, Indiana was searching for ways to provide experiential learning opportunities for its biology students. Little did Del Layton know, but in 1966, plans were set in motion that would give him the education facility he dreamed of having to complete his town.
The program started in 1959 when John Roth came from Oregon to Goshen College, majored in biology. Like me, went off to graduate school immediately thereafter, and as he's fitting graduate school, approached by Goshen College to come teach. John came to teach. After 2 years, he and Mary Ann decided, I don't know if I want to spend my life teaching at Goshen College. He actually tried to resign, and the dean wouldn't accept it. And so they gave him leave of absence. He came to Florida, to Miami, to the Rosenstiel School of Marine Biology, and spent a year studying marine biology.
We spent the year down there living on Key Biscayne in what amounted to a very small former little motel. But as we thought about things, we decided that there were many good things at Goshen College, many good people there, and many good students that we might continue to serve. And we made the decision that instead of staying for another year or two on the postdoc, we would come back to Goshen College. That spring, there were 10 of our upper class men, and at that time, I must confess, the science classes were probably 90% male. These 10 young fellows wanted to go and have an adventure during spring break. And so my fellow faculty member and former mentor, Dr. Frank Bishop, and I packed them up in 2 vehicles, and we headed on the road to Pigeon Key.
It was rustic. I mean, very rustic. No screens on the windows. Things falling out of the ceiling onto your bed at night and scurrying away. And I mean, it was pretty rustic.
There were mosquitoes, there were no-see-ums, little biting flies. There were termites that fell down from the ceiling at night and crawled over your bedclothes. And these guys had a ball. And they came back to Goshen College, and they had these beautiful specimens. They talked about all the adventures that they'd had. And the next year we had 25 students that wanted to go. And we made a change the second year. The first year it was all men. The second year of the 25, we had 2 young women. From that time forth, marine biology was always co-ed.
The marine biology program was the first of its kind for Goshen College. It provided an immersive learning opportunity for students and faculty alike. While the program was successful in its first year, it moved many times throughout its early years in search of a place to set its roots.
The research facilities begin with Pigeon Key. Pigeon Key, we were there 3 years, 66, 67, 68. But we moved from there because we found another place, 40 miles, a little more than 40 miles south on Big Pine Key, a place called Sea Camp, which was deluxe. It had air conditioning in some of the rooms. It had a big space we could use for a laboratory and cafeteria, and that was where we were until we moved up to Layton.
A chemistry prof from the college, Glenn Miller, was going to retire, and John Roth persuaded him to try the keys. And he said to John Roth, "Look, you persuaded me to try the keys. Now you owe me one. And what you owe me is to bring the Goshen students up to the Baptist church to sing on Sunday morning." When they came to sing here, Del Layton, who was still living at that time, discovered here are some clean-cut, good kids. They know how to sing. They come to church on Sunday morning. These are my people. And so he invited John and Frank to move their program from south of here to Layton.
When we got to Layton, that was a problem. Where were we going to do our research? Because when Del Layton laid out the idea of us moving up there, I asked about housing, of course. And then I said, but where will we work? Well, Del had the answer. He said, we'll use judges' chambers in City Hall for the laboratory. So we used judges' quarters for the facility. And then later, a couple years later, the owner of the motel converted a couple of cabins behind the main motel into a laboratory space for us. And so we had that then until the new laboratory in the current location was finished and dedicated in 1985.
With the long-term viability of the Florida Keys program in question, the college needed to find a permanent home. In 1982, Goshen College overcame that barrier by building their own facility in Layton, Florida, thus fulfilling the dreams of both John Roth and Del Layton. Breaking ground took longer than was expected. Though Del Layton donated one of the most sought-after plots of land in Layton, the college struggled to find the funds to build a facility. Eventually, the money came, and that facility serves marine biology students today, carrying on the legacy started by Goshen College professors John Roth and Frank Bishop. Del Layton finally had an educational facility for his town. Despite having health issues at the time, Del was able to attend the grand opening of the new marine biology station. Shortly thereafter, he passed away. But Del Layton would leave an indelible mark on his community and the hundreds of students who were to visit for years to come.
The fact that Goshen, a small liberal arts school, has its own marine biology station is rather stunning. When you add the fact that Goshen is nested within the middle of the country and the coastlines are quite distant, it becomes even more curious and unique that a place like Goshen has its own marine biology station. When Goshen College received the lot to build the J.N. Roth Marine Biology Station, it was a game changer. It was a very a fortunate opportunity for us, given the fact that we have a facility nested down in the Florida Keys in a small town called Layton, where there's not a lot of other tourism and other large industry. We have access to the marine system in a very kind of idyllic way.
I spent my time, 37 years of going, had my adventures, and developed some very close friendships with some of the students as a result. And some of the students have continued to use it in unique ways. For example, Carl Weaver here at the high school went the third year at Pigeon Key.
As a teacher at Goshen High School, some years later I was telling a class about that experience, and they raised the question about a high school group doing that. And that's how we got started. Our experience in the Keys was just a week. It was much shorter with a high school group. In my opinion, there's no one that deserves to be honored for the marine biology program here that Goshen College has, and for being honored with the naming of the facility than John Roth.
I'm proud of the program, whatever little part I had to play in it, and what's continued to go.
For over 50 years, Goshen College has continued the legacy of this experiential learning program in the Florida Keys. Students and faculty today are more excited than ever to have hands-on immersion in the marine world around Layton, Florida.
Beginning then in 2008, I began teaching the marine biology midterm class and began to become extremely fascinated with the diversity of creatures, the diversity of taxa, and ecological principles that I could begin to study with my students there. We are all living together, cooking together, eating together. Over lunch, we're sharing stories about what we saw, which penicillus we gathered in the field, what dolphins were doing at Channel 5 Bridge, how many octopus we gathered, those kinds of things. So we were kind of eating, breathing, and sleeping marine biology for those 3 weeks.
You know, like for 3 weeks, it's like you're actually learning from the time you get up to the time you go to bed.
Hearing that Goshen had this amazing program where you could go into the Florida Keys and you would actually have hands-on personal research and interactions with all these creatures and learn about the ecology and the environment that go on in all these marine ecosystems was just an amazing opportunity, and I couldn't say no to it.
What I love about the trip as a whole is the opportunity to be in an environment that I don't get to experience every day. So the ocean is so unique and so unknown to someone like myself from the middle of the US. And so it's a fantastic opportunity to take a couple of weeks and be very intentional about studying out here, learning as much as I can, and going back and sharing the knowledge that I've accumulated with the people around me.
While the facility is great for sleeping and research, most of what we actually do in marine biology down there is we're out on the boats and in the mud flats and in the coral reefs and in the grass beds doing field work. So the facility gives us access to all those sites, but it's truly the the splendor of the ecological system that draws students in.
The immersion that this setting provides is spectacular, and I'm a big believer in doing biology in the field and getting out into nature and experiencing it firsthand.
We don't have a lot of downtime because we feel like it's such a unique opportunity to be here. We want to soak it all up as much as we can in 3 weeks.
The diversity and amount of wildlife that I've been able to see and come across just blows my mind. We've seen sea turtles and manatees and pods of dolphins and nurse sharks, and it's been incredible.
I dove in the ocean the other day at the reef. It was amazing. It's a different life down in the ocean compared to the one we have on the terrestrial land.
Being able to dive down, scrape the floor, and then roll around on my back and look back up at the water above me, I think that's really a neat sensation to feel that I'm in the ocean and beneath the ocean and part of the ocean for as brief a time as it is. I think the marine biology program here at Goshen College is a fantastic opportunity for students from all walks of life to immerse themselves in a novel environment and something that they may not know much about, and to gain a broader appreciation of how the world works, how the natural world works, and how humans play a role in that functioning.
As an ecologist, I'm really fascinated and interested in the connections and relationships between creatures. However, what I'm also increasingly aware of is the social connections between different communities of human communities is also equally important to the scientific process. So the fact that we have a marine biology station in the Florida Keys, the fact that Goshen has been given this land to build a station, has been built on the relationships between people at Goshen and people who lived in Layton for decades.
When we built the building, okay, or y'all built the building on the property that my dad and Dell gave to Goshen College. The very first times down, there was a kinship that developed between the citizens, the church, and the college.
The best thing about the relationship with the community and the college students that come here, not only from Goshen, but I don't know how you pick them, but the other schools that have been here have just been excellent. By the gray hair you can see, we like to see young people around. And when you walk down the street, people wave at you and say hi, because it's just been a phenomenal relationship between the students and the population.
For as long as I can remember, they've been coming down. And when I would come and visit one of my grandparents when I still lived in Miami, many times during the summer, Goshen would be here, and it was so fun because the students would come and sing, and they would always do barbecues after church for them. They'd all come. I think that was their way of bribing them to sing, because it was always such a pleasure for us.
The city and the college grew up together. You know, it's like again, I don't know that there's anybody in this town that that lived here when the college wasn't here.
I would personally like to know more about what, they're studying, what kind of work they're doing. I would like to be more involved with them even through the church like we used to be.
The Layton community, we're right in the heart of it, or at least in the heart of a good section of it. And so we definitely see people every day, whether it's just driving down or passing in boats. On Sundays, we have a unique opportunity to be able to go and attend the Southern Baptist Church that the Layton community is kind of based around. And something that I would look forward to is more interactions with the Layton community.
I know I can speak for here at our church. Every year, people look forward to, and usually at about, I don't know, February or so, March, people will start asking me, "Hey, are the kids going to be here this year to sing? And are they, are they going to be, are they going to be coming?" So they, it's something we look forward to.
The unique relationship between the City of Layton and Goshen College has allowed students to learn the importance of our marine ecosystems and to gain environmental awareness. The areas around Long Key offer the opportunity to study a variety of marine systems while being away from more popular tourist and fishing areas of the Keys.
We are living on one complex, interconnected planet. And so what marine systems do is they demonstrate to us that our behaviors in the Midwest of the United States, in terms of how much energy we're utilizing via coal production, spewing carbon dioxide into the air. The oceans all across the planet are absorbing that carbon dioxide. And so when a student goes down and starts snorkeling in the Florida Keys and becomes enamored with the coral reefs and the fish diversity, and then here's a lecture from the Fish and Wildlife Service saying, by the way, coral reefs will not be around for your kids probably, or definitely not for your grandkids, because of climate change. The acidification of the oceans is leading to all kinds of coral bleaching events, and we're losing our coral systems. But that's not because of what people in the Florida Keys are doing. That's because of what we as a global community all across the planet are doing.
Looking at the world around us and how everything is so interconnected, it's impossible to not see just how important and how integrated the marine system is into our entire existence as a planet. There are so many parallels between things we see in the terrestrial realm and the aquatic realm. To be able to see that the things that we do have global implications is something that I think is really, really important. To not forget about the world of water right at our fingertips, because that's going to be just as important as anything that we see here on land.
Once I learned that this place could disappear in about 50 years, that sort of made me realize we need to do something about it. So perhaps what are ways that we can understand those patterns of human behavior in societies to benefit the environment instead of devastating it?
One of the things that we've been able to do here is try to limit the ecological footprint that we kind of have. And one of the ways we've been doing that is by conserving water by as much as possible. And so we limit ourselves to shorter showers and 1 shower a day. We have a freshwater rain basin that we wash our things in, realizing and remembering that even the little things you do can make a difference, especially when many people are doing these little things, is something that this course has helped to remind me of.
As a global community, how our behaviors as the human community are influencing natural systems. We're really finding that it's not only important that we help our students understand their relationships with the natural world, but the relationships we have with our research colleagues is also opening up some new opportunities for us. One thing we're really excited about is a semester-long collaborative program that we're developing with Old Dominion University. And Old Dominion University students and Goshen College students will be able to stay for an entire semester down in Florida, where they can complete an internship with a local marine organization, do a research project, and take several classes. And you know, we really think Dell Layton would be proud of that development. So in that regard, I think we really look forward to continuing to grow with the Layton community and perhaps offer another 50 years of marine biology education.
Thanks for joining us for this showing of this documentary. From the advancement perspective, I am so grateful for Dell having that vision, and so grateful for our teachers for also bringing that vision, and that continues today. So after viewing here, now we have a chance to hear more about the making of this and the program down in Layton, Florida. Our panelists tonight are Professor Ryan Sensenig and Associate Professor Kyle Hufford. Ryan Sensenig has taught in the Goshen College Department of Biological Sciences since 2007 and is the director of the J.N. Roth Marine Biology Station. He also team teaches the May term marine biology course with Jody Saylor, directs the environmental and marine science program, and supervises student research in marine biology in the Florida Keys. Ryan also has research projects in Kenya and Indiana examining the effects of fire and grazing on long-term soil carbon storage in grassland systems. Thanks for joining us this evening, Ryan. Kyle Hufford has been an associate professor in the GC Communications Department since 2011. In addition to directing the film, production, and TV broadcasting programs, Kyle is also the executive director of the department's 5 Core Media video production company. Kyle led a team of film students to the J.N. Roth Marine Biology Station during the May term of 2017 to film the Deep Dive documentary. Beyond the Florida Keys, Kyle has led trips to Greece, Kenya, and an upcoming trip to Japan. In addition to these site trips, he also oversees the filming and editing of the Festival of Carols concert at Goshen College, sharing this beloved event with public television audiences in Indiana and beyond. Kyle, thanks for coming out this evening and sharing some insights on the making of Deep Dive.
Thanks, Todd. And welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us tonight. It's always exciting to get to show our videos and the students' work to new audiences every time. We got to have a screening or a premiere of Deep Dive back in 2018 in Humble Center, and that was exciting to have a big crowd there for that. But any other opportunities we can to share it is always beneficial, especially with documentaries like this. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank Ryan and Jody Saylor for going along with this crazy idea of taking some film students along to their May term marine biology trip. And it really was quite a different experience. It's not an international trip, but it feels like another world, especially when you're in the ocean like that. It's different for the students, for sure. They many of the students that I had brought along, it was a new experience for them and something they had not experienced before, and so it made it doubly challenging to do a documentary in that format, but also to do underwater filming, which is something we as a department hadn't approached before. And so there was a lot that we had to do. We even did some training at the new pool, the new middle school pool here in Goshen, with our underwater gear and our film crew in that spring semester leading up to the May term. And so it was a great opportunity to not only get to practice the art of filmmaking and documentary filmmaking, but also get to do some things that we don't in a normal semester get to experience. And especially this idea of interdisciplinary work that we get to do with other departments on campus. And this opportunity really lended itself for that in many ways. And I love that aspect of Goshen College, of how well the departments work together and are open to these sometimes out there ideas of working together and cross-pollinating and giving our students this very wide breadth of knowledge. As filmmakers, we're always telling stories, and it's usually not our own stories. And as documentarians, you're always telling someone else's story as well. And so this opportunity to tell the story of the history of the marine biology program was fruitful in that we were celebrating 50 years of the program. And so to record its history and to keep that for posterity was very important. But also this idea of our film students coming along and learning about marine biology ecosystems at the same time. And to see them learning just as much as the marine biology students were learning at the same time, and to be immersed in that and have that hands-on experiential experience, because we know from research, we know from practice that students learn best when it's experiential, when they're hands-on and actually doing the work, and not just learning the theory. So back in 2017, I brought 6 students along on the trip, and they were shared different responsibilities and traded off. We got to literally at times knock on doors, go door to door and knock to see if anybody in the community wanted to talk or do an interview or that kind of thing. And so that was interesting as well. We got to go along on all of the excursions to the different marine locations that we go to. Unfortunately, Ryan was not there that May term. It was one of the few that he hasn't been, and he actually wasn't there, which is kind of funny. But we were able to interview him when we got back. The class was very unique. This particular course was very unique in the way that, and we've done this multiple times. Todd mentioned that I've led trips to Kenya as well as Greece and Rome. And we've done a similar structure with those as well. This project actually consisted of 3 different classes that worked on it. We had a class that did pre-production for it. We had the class that went and did a majority of the production. And then we had a class in the following fall of 2017, actually do the post-production work on it. There was a lot of students that were in all 3 courses, but some weren't. And so in the end, we had about 12 different students actually work on this project over the course of that time. And so that also reflects the real way films are made. You have different teams of people doing different parts of the production phase. And so it allows each phase to get focus. So while we were there during our May term, we didn't have to worry about putting the whole project together, editing it, and finishing it in those 3 weeks. We could just focus on filming. And actually, when we returned, that summer is when we captured some of the other interviews that we needed that were local. And we did that then. And so that was kind of the timeline of that film. And really goes along with the way that we like to structure these more longer term projects, and how we will in the future as well. So some accolades that this project received. It was accepted into multiple film festivals, the Fort Myers Beach International Film Festival, the Victory International Film Festival in Evansville, Indiana, the Riverbend Film Festival, which is here in Goshen, the Rendezvous Film Festival in Amelia Island, that is just right next to Jacksonville, Florida, the International Christian and Music Festival, which is in Orlando, Florida, and the Best Doc Award for the Indiana Association of School Broadcasters Award as well. And so we're really proud of the students' work being recognized in really all over the country with those awards. And it's something they can put on their resume, something they can put on their demo reel. And that's also another benefit of large projects like these. Instead of telling some stories about behind the scenes, I thought I would show a really quick video. We put together a video, a little behind the scenes video of the filming of this project. And it's only a minute long, so it's very short, but just it's a little bit added bonus of something that you'll get to see tonight from the students' work. All right, so thank you so much again for coming tonight. If you have questions about any part of the production and whatnot, and you're on Zoom, you can go ahead and stick those questions in there. Also, at the end, we're going to be posting the links to these videos that you can see on your own if you wanted to watch it again, or if you wanted to like pass it along to somebody that you might think that is interested in it. So all of these links are freely available for you. And I'm going to hand it off now to my colleague, Ryan Sensnig, and he's going to talk about more of the biology side of things.
Thanks so much, Kyle. I have to say, I've watched that documentary many times and I never tire of it. I also want to thank you and your team for doing such an amazing job at telling the story. I am going to spend a little bit of time giving you all a brief update on some of the things happening in the department related to marine programming. And of course, this history that we've been just discussing influences the current programs that we're able to offer, and indeed helps us chart future plans. It's likely that in 10 or 20 years, what we consider future plans are then going to be history, and the whole process will continue again. So there are many people that you were introduced to in this documentary who need to be thanked. I won't spend more time telling the story, given that you just watched it, but there are a few things that I need to say personally regarding our current program that would not be possible without these people. And in the center here, Jody Saylor is an essential colleague in the program, and she and I team teach the class in many May terms. And I'd like to acknowledge her important role in the program. Of course, you learned a lot about Jonathan Roth and Frank Bishop's foundational leadership to the program. And Dwayne Kaufman plays a really important role in the unfolding of the story. Not only has he helped chronicle the history, he wrote a small booklet that documents some of the history. He was the one who first gave me my sea legs, in a sense, trained me on the program, and he and I co-taught for some years together. Carl Weaver, who you also saw in the video, is now retired from Goshen High School, but I consider him a dear colleague in the sense that not only does he send wonderful students from Goshen High School to Goshen College who are excited about marine biology, but he has recruited a tremendous number of volunteers to help us do facility renovations and maintenance down at the facility. So he's a true champion of the program. This is during the naming ceremony where we named the station after Jonathan Roth and the laboratory after Frank Bishop. And I want to point out Tony Swinehart. Tony Swinehart is a professor from Hillsdale College who uses our facility every year. He, in fact, I hand the keys over in a sense to him after our May term class is over, and Hillsdale students spend 3 weeks studying there also. Tony helped me also explore the marine biology system for the first time. And I remember he took me out in his boat, and together that first day, I caught my first tiny little bonnethead shark. So I also am indebted to Tony for his work. And as you saw in the video, these memories that are underlined through the history, the telling by Jonathan and Frank, these memories keep being made for our students in new ways. So we continue the tradition of singing in the Baptist church every Sunday that we're there to honor this long history. And in that regard, I could keep going on and on about the number of people who are part of this story. What I did earlier this week is I took all of the institutions that reserve our facility, and for the last 12 or 15 years, and I dumped their name in a word cloud. So these are the bigger the word, the more times these names showed up in terms of their use of our facility over the last 15 years. So you can see some familiar places: Central Christian, Hillsdale College, Old Dominion University, Goshen, of course, stands for Goshen High School and Goshen College. But we've had other universities, Duke and Hiram College, and a variety of institutions use our facility. Our facility gets used throughout the year in a very consistent way. Nowadays, September through December, we have Goshen College students there staying down for the entire fall semester. I'll tell you more about that in a second. But from February to April, We rent the facility to research universities and high schools and continue to support their work in that regard. And of course, we continue the long-standing tradition of every May term taking our students from Goshen College down. I want to switch now and tell you a little bit more about our current program and connect it back to some of the history that we've just been discussing. We are in our 55th year of offering marine biology education, which is outstanding. It's tremendous. Just this week, the registrar's office did some digging for us, and they learned that as of this week, 1,060 students have participated in an immersive field class down in Florida. I also want to make note of a few connections, though, to this history. As John Roth in the documentary indicated, we have a variety of GC alumni who are now marine biology high school teachers. So here's Von Schrock. Von Schrock was a Goshen College student and participated in the class, took that marine biology class and got so motivated by it that when he became a teacher, he has continued to take his students down to our station. And in fact, one of his graduates named Leah Otto chose to come to Goshen College, for which we're very grateful. And she, in fact, will be going down and spending the entire semester down in Florida this coming fall, next fall, as a part of the marine biology semester. Now, what she does in terms of spawning off and influencing future students remains to be seen. But this kind of cycle of education is something we are continually grateful for and proud of. Carl Weaver, as I intimated earlier, has also been engaged in this to a very strong degree. Carl Weaver went to Goshen College, and that influenced his desire to take his high school students to marine biology. This is Morgan Short. Morgan Short went down to Florida with Carl, I believe maybe 4 times, all 4 years of her high school experience. And we were grateful that she chose to come to Goshen College. She graduated several years ago with a degree in environmental science, and now she's doing a master's program at Nova Southeastern University. And last time I taught marine biology, I invited her to come and give a guest lecture in our class. So there she is, already doing some teaching, team teaching at Goshen College. I could go on. I just mentioned one other student, Anna Costanza. She's doing a master's at San Francisco State University, and her work is trying to understand whale and turtle bycatch in the Peruvian fisheries industry. And she made use of her SST experience, but also her marine biology experience here to craft that program. So what does our current curriculum look like? Well, we've added some new classes on campus before students go down to take marine biology. They now take a class, 3-credit non-lab-based class called oceanography. They also take a GIS class. These classes then prepare them for the May term class that we've traditionally been offering for these many years. And after May term, that prepares them for a full semester. We call it the marine biology semester. We offer it every fall. In that experience, students take 2 immersive classes for 3 weeks each. They take a 3-week marine ecology class, and then traditionally they've taken a 3-week invertebrate zoology class. You heard in the documentary that we've offered this for the first time with Old Dominion University in a collaborative relationship. We're now beginning to run that program on our own. So for the first time next fall, we will run this fall immersion program with only Goshen College students. We have a full cohort of 12 students who will take it in the fall. Not only do they take these 2 classes, they get a 120-hour marine biology internship with a local marine fisheries agency, and they work on their research, which they'll use to craft their senior thesis. Now, the story is also not just about curriculum, but it's about the place. And obviously, as mentioned in the video, our laboratory here is really what is attractive about this site. But we have to have buildings, we have to have boats, and we have to have infrastructure. So through the years, we've worked to renovate the first ground floor to make it into a teaching classroom. We've installed a 5,000-gallon water tank to gather rainwater off the roof, which is useful for rinsing down boats and washing bodies after they've gotten out of the salt water. I believe this picture is of our fearless previous TA, Jacob Roth, who I bribed to go down in there and help us install the rainwater system while he was serving as a teaching assistant. In addition, we've recently renovated the kitchen. We've installed new air conditioning systems We've been grateful for Goshen High School's use of their pontoon boat, but we've also had some hiccups. Hurricane Irma came through and had minor damage to the infrastructure, including the guttering and the roof, but put about 2 feet of water in our basement. And that required us to get the facility re-inspected. And through that process, we learned that we can no longer use the facility in the same way we've used it in the past. We no longer are able to have AC systems and climate-controlled classroom in the ground floor. And we had to actually remove these internal walls and make it just an open area, like a garage setting as it was previously. So that's caused us to think about how facility can match the curricular commitments we have. And that takes me to my last point about the future. We're extremely excited about the potentiality of building a new building. This is a rendering of what a new building could look like. It was produced by a Goshen College graduate named Adi Gehrig-Heyerly. She's an architect in Oregon. She also took marine biology with us, and I encouraged her to get involved in the project. And the reason we need a new building is to support the curricular work that we've been discussing previously. So right now we're in phase 1 of 2-phase construction process. Phase 1 is what we do post Irma in terms of renovations and getting in code with new compliance mandated by FEMA. That means we're getting some kitchen renovations completed. We're upgrading the system in the facility, the dormitory for fire code. We're also adding new stairs outside. Once we complete that, we've already begun discussing with a contractor, providing plans that Adi developed for us to think about the construction of a new facility, which we're calling phase 2. Whether it's an attached building or a separate building, those are details we'll still figure out. But the idea would be to have an elevated classroom with storage and clean lab here, prep room, in addition to 2 small bedrooms that would allow long-term faculty to stay there, given that now we're offering curricular work down there for an entire semester at a time. This area would be a reading room and a meeting area for students in a safe area, in addition to serving as a small kitchenette for the faculty. So we're excited to think about, as I mentioned in the documentary, what another 50 years of marine education could look like. But of course, we can't go that direction without acknowledging the wonderful history and all the relationships that have gotten us to this point. And that leads me to conclude with an invitation for you. I believe Aaron is going to put a link in the chat, and you can now join this Jamboard. If you would like, you're welcome to click the little arrow here, grab one of these sticky notes, and you can share your own memory of your time at marine biology, and you can move it around. So I welcome you to also not only just engage in the question and answer time, but feel free to share some of your memories with the rest of us. And with that, Todd is going to lead us in a time of question and answer.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. Thank you, Kyle. I really appreciate hearing about the programs and what it took to make this documentary. You know, I'm often have spent some time with both Ryan and Kyle in their offices talking about their work, and the passion that I bring back out of that in the biological sciences, the relationship between land and water and humans is such an important thing that we need to teach here, but also we need to tell the story. And that's where Kyle is motivating his students to learn the craft of that storytelling. And I'm grateful for both of those things. So yeah, there's an interesting and fun way to share your story. So make sure that if you still want to share some of your reflections in the Q&A, you're certainly welcome to do that. But for our participants in the Zoom here, you can also ask a question. We'll get to that because we know that you, those participants, are part of the story. So I might start with Kyle. You know, are there more plans for the documentary, or has it gone through the whole process of film festivals and on, or is there a life after the life of a documentary? You know, tell me more about that.
Yeah, so we kind of ran the film festival circuit for a while, and then kind of wrapped that up. The last film festival it was in was actually September, this past September. So the Fort Myers Beach Film Festival actually went forward and had an in-person film festival. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend, but I was able to attend the Rendezvous Film Festival in Amelia Island with two former students that were a part of the project, and that was in 2019. So now it just kind of lives on in its current form, and until maybe we do a part 2 someday down the road.
Make sure you invite me along too. Ryan, I might ask you a question here. How do the new curricular components of the marine biology track and the environmental and marine science major connect to the decision to build new labs and classrooms?
Yeah, thank you, Todd. We realized that while the facility served its role in many good ways for many years, if we were going to have students living down there for 3 months, and if we're going to have faculty coming and going and staying there for long residential time periods, the facility as designed is not particularly conducive to that for 2 reasons. One, faculty historically have been living in a small bedroom next to the kitchen upstairs. And if we have visiting scholars coming in or faculty coming in for this long semester and residence program, it would be more beneficial to have a separate area where they can have residence. But secondly, we're no longer able to use the ground floor as our classroom. We're able to store things there now regarding hurricane compliance, but we're not really able to use it in the same way we used it in the past. So that means we need a place for lectures and presentations and lab work. And it makes sense to connect this new building with the old building via the elevated walkway. And then we would use the old ground floor as an open air wet lab. So we'd probably remove the breakaway walls and we'd install recirculating tanks there, and we'd have that facility for a wet lab. So essentially it doubles our instructional research space and also is more conducive to long-term residents.
Oh, Ryan, I really appreciate you sharing the concept drawing that Adi had provided as a gift, just to get us moving and seeing what it could look like. And I know it's been exciting for those who have seen it. Hey, I might turn over to Kyle, maybe switch gears just a little bit. And you know, communications has a new home, the Center for Communication Studies at Goshen College. How has this changed and impacted student learning, as specifically in filmmaking and possibly ongoing documentary production?
Yeah, we're very fortunate and blessed to have this new Center for Communication Studies here in the Newcomer Center, actually. And so if you haven't been here this year and you're not aware, but the old Mennonite Archives is now the home of the communication department, our co-curriculars actually. So the radio station is there, the TV studio is there, the digital newsroom for The Record, our student newspaper, as well as our PRSSA public relations co-curricular is housed out of there too. But I would say the biggest difference I've seen so far is this greater sense of community with that space, and our students able to collaborate more together in one space. You know, before we were in 4 different buildings on campus, and so everybody was kind of siloed. And I walk in there and I see all of our students just working together in some of these shared spaces. And that's really encouraging. It kind of feels like we have a home now, and I think that collaboration is really going to benefit the department, but more so the students in the future, in that idea that interdisciplinary learning and taking tools and adding them to their toolkit.
So it's film students, it's radio, broadcasting, and it's also the record is housed there, as well as PR students, public relations students. Yeah, to walk through there on occasion, not often, since we are in an era of a pandemic, but it's good to see and hear those reflections, even from the students, how excited they are. So Ryan, this question didn't come in, but it occurred to me that we didn't talk at all about what the programming means now in a pandemic. How is this, what has happened, good, bad, and the ugly, kind of reveal how this has affected the marine science major and studies.
Yeah, that's been a challenge. We did cancel our last May term class this past May term due to COVID. And this fall that we just completed would have been our second cohort of marine biology students taking the full semester. We also canceled that due to COVID, but also shifts with our collaboration with ODU, Old Dominion University. So that means now we have a full cohort for next fall, and we think with vaccinations and good testing and keeping our unit of students considered to be our family unit, we think we can do that very safely. So we're planning to proceed with that as normal.
I wonder what Del Layton would think about having students there more and more and full classes year round. So I'm sure he would be pleased. You know, we don't have a prescribed time, but we're getting toward the end of our time here. If there are any more questions from the audience, we did get some reflections. One person is saying just how the fond memories of experience in marine biology. We in advancement, when we talk with alumni and friends, marine biology is one of those things that they talk about, and it is truly one of those fond lifelong memories that they have. But I might ask to Kyle, one last question for you. What are some of the future projects the communication department is working on? Tell us more about that planned trip to Japan.
Yeah, we have a couple of projects coming up. One project we're finishing. It always seems like we're finishing one and starting another one right about the same time, but we're finishing a documentary now that we've been working on a couple of years called Vital Passage. And this is a story of a local merchant in Goshen who had a store downtown, and he, during the World War II, just prior to World War II, rescued Jews from Germany and immigrated them and sponsored them and brought them actually to Goshen. And we're telling that story that a lot of people didn't know about, part of our history of our town here. And so that's almost done. And hopefully you'll be hearing more about that soon. This May, we were supposed to be going to Japan, taking a trip to Japan, but it's being postponed to next May. But we will be traveling to a place called ARI, which is Asian Rural Institute. It's just north of Tokyo. They are also celebrating a 50th anniversary. And I've been plugged in with this organization for a little while. What they do is they have cohorts of students that come. And so it's leaders from across the world in developing nations. So they bring in community leaders of rural communities. And for a year, they study at this institute, and they study financial sustainability as well as agricultural sustainability methods. And then they go back and and take what they've learned back to their communities. And so we will be doing a story on them.
I'm looking forward to hearing more about that as that develops. Sounds like exciting work and fun. Ryan, for our last question of the evening, what is the long-term vision for program capacity in terms of students? And are there plans for any future collaborations with other universities?
Great. We have a capacity for about 12 students to take the marine biology semester each fall. So that's the new cohort that we have targeted. Every year we'd like to bring in 10 to 12 new students who are committed to studying marine biology. Right now we changed the name of our degree in our department. It's called Environmental and Marine Science. You can get a concentration in either ecology, climate science, or marine biology. And so we have about 40 students in the environmental and marine science degree. And I would like about 12 of those to be entering each year, which would make in the future, the numbers come out around 50 just in marine biology. So that if that were to be a goal that we reach, we would likely need more support from the teaching side. And so eventually it'd be nice to hire someone who's at least part-time marine biology, has a PhD in marine science. And we think we can fill a niche. We get a lot of requests, a lot of students interested in marine science, exploring Goshen. In terms of collaborations with other universities, we have more opportunity to do summer research there than we've had in the past. We had a memorandum of understanding with Old Dominion University for at least a decade where they used our research center every summer. We're no longer in that MOU, so we now have more opportunity in the summers to collaborate with other universities who might want to do research there. And I'm also curious whether there might be other Mennonite institutions who might want to collaborate with us to offer, go in on the marine biology curriculum and maybe invite students from other institutions to participate in the marine semester. So I've been in informal dialogue with a variety of universities to see whether that might be a possibility. But I think there's a lot of interest, given the fact that we are in the throes of wrestling with how to deal with climate change and sea level rise. I think it's all the more important for us to take our students to the epicenter of climate change in a sense, where they can see the effects of climate change on the communities in which they're studying. While we see those changes here in Indiana, they're also pronounced in the coastal areas. And I think it's really important that we keep taking our students to those areas.
Thanks. You know, I wonder, those folks that are out in the audience and our alumni who went in the 80s, perhaps, or 90s, and if they would return, how they would remark on the change of that outdoor laboratory. And I know it would be remarkable, and that would be something that they would remember. So thank you to Ryan, thank you to Kyle for joining us this evening for GC Talks and this telling us about the making of Deep Dive and the documentary that tells us the history and the programming that goes on in marine science at Goshen College. And thank you for joining us in tonight's program. Goshen College is looking forward to an exciting future of marine science on the leading edge of climate change in the Florida Keys. If you have questions or want to know more about the ongoing plans that we have here in advancement and at Goshen College for the growth of the facilities at the Marine Biology Station, please feel free to contact myself or Ryan through our contact information posted at goshen.edu. Good night, stay safe, and stay connected.